and this is why I love NXT. Play the thing. Hi, welcome back to the channel. It's currently 3:15 in the morning. I thought I'd just get on here and record this now. Apologies for the grainy quality. I'm having to use indoor lighting to get a feed here, so it's not going to be great. But my name's Steve, and we're going to review night one of NXT TakeOver Stand and Deliver. So first off, the pre-show, Mickie James, Hall of Famer, he's on commentary for Zoe Stark versus Toni Storm. Good match, not as good as I felt that Zoe Stark had last week against Raquel Gonzalez. Bit of a I would have expected more from the two competitors that were in the ring. Toni Storm's got a great in-ring ability. From what I've seen of Stark so far, she's really good in the ring as well. But I don't know, we just didn't live up to what I was expecting it to be, unfortunately. But still, I expect big things from from both of them really going forward. Okay match, nothing really special about it. Zoe Stark wins with a reversing inside cradle after Toni Storm tries to hit the Stormbreaker, and she picks up the pinfall. Onto the main show, and the show opens up with Nita Strauss, Alice Cooper's guitarist, playing the national anthem. She's quite a sort of a foundation of NXT. She's been in loads of stuff. She's done loads of openers previously. She's done Shinsuke Nakamura's entrance, I think, at Mania one year. So yeah, it's all right for what it is. It's just an entrance. Now, I'm going to go into the first match. You have to apologise. I've got notes written down here, so I'm going to be sort of looking down, going through them while I just recap the matches for you. But starting off, Pete Dunne versus Kushida, exactly what it says it was going to be. Best technical match of the night. Pete Dunne comes out, he has new music. So it's just basically a remix of his current song. Preferred his old one, to be fair. But again, it's just music, so who cares about that? Yeah, it's great back and forth between the pair of them. Amazing technical abilities. Kushida ends up hitting a hoverboard lock Spanish fly off the top rope at one point, which is... Man, these guys are crazy with some of the stuff they do. But yeah, it's an amazing move. Great use of the rope break in this match as well, like multiple times, because Kushida dominated for long periods that Pete Dunne was having to use the rope breaks, but it just in very invigorative ways that they could use it. Great ways for Dunne to get out of a lot of the stuff that was going on in the match. The match turns around after long periods of time from Kushida dominating. Pete Dunne manages to do one of them moves where he looks like he's breaking Kushida's fingers. Kushida then turns around, punches Dunne in the head, which he pulls back and relishes in the pain. Dunne then picks him off with the bitter ending and picks up the pinfall. I expect Dunne to go on to now challenge for the NXT Championship again, hoping Kushida will get a run. I mean, he is 37 now, so hopefully he does get a title reign at some point. I can't imagine he's got many years left, but then again, saying that he could probably go another 6 years with his technical ability. So yeah, it's a good match, but hopefully they move on to bigger and better things, the pair of them. Onto the Gauntlet Eliminator match, and man, was this something to call. It was amazing. It starts off with a reverse on what happened last week on NXT, where you had Swerve dragging Ruff out at the start as a counter to what happened last week when it was in the reverse situation. They go back and forth before they even start the match. There's a great point where, because they've got the elevated ramp on the outside, which is level with the mat, there's a bit where Ruff just jumps off the ramp and hits the barricade around the side and just lands on it perfectly. Good athletic display by him. And so this is all before even the match starts. We finally get into the match. Ruff hits a twisting cutter off the announce table onto Swerve, and then back and forth for a bit. This then ends up back in the ring. Swerve has Ruff in a powerbomb position on the second rope, and Ruff manages to reverse that into a mean-looking Hurricanrana off the second rope. So at this point, then Bronson Reed then enters the ring. You can get the typical trope that for some reason that people that are a hell of a lot lighter than Bronson Reed seem to think that they can Irish whip this guy. It makes me die every time I see it. It does make me laugh. It is quite funny, but yeah, the logic for years, why do people insist on trying to Irish whip a heavyweight if they are a cruiserweight? It's just madness. There's in a great spot with Ruff and Reed. They pull off a suplex. Reed has Swerve in the suplex position, and Ruff comes off the top rope and splashes him in a good double team move by the pair of them. Reed then starts pulling out some Rikishi-esque style moves. He's dropping a lot of sit downs on Swerve, and Swerve, who's in the middle of the ring, just like Rikishi used to do back in the late 90s, early 2000s. Reed then pulls off a double German suplex to both Swerve and Ruff. This is just before Cameron Grimes then enters the ring at this point. As Grimes gets into the ring, he has a little back and forth. He then proceeds to pull out again another fat wad of cash out of his trunks. He then pays Isaiah Swerve Scott to team up with him. He's basically buying an allegiance, which works really well into the story. Then onto the next major spot, you have Swerve has Ruff on his shoulders and pulls off like an AA move into the corner. It looks like Ruff took a nasty tumble there. Like it looked like it hit him hard on the back of the head. Good spot, but just say it looked really, really rough. Next part's kind of confusing. Dexter Lumis's music then plays and he comes down to the ring, and all of a sudden it cuts back and you've got Swerve throwing Grimes at the rim. And then he just pins Ruff, and Ruff is then eliminated. And there's no cutback, there's no explanation, there's no, you know what I mean? It just doesn't explain. But yeah, for some reason, somehow, Ruff is the first person eliminated by Isaiah Swerve Scott. As Loomis comes in, him and Grimes then have a short moment where Grimes is obviously having flashbacks to Halloween Havoc, where he's still terrified of Dexter Lumis, which is again a great play on Dexter Lumis's character, being this sort of giving him this whole serial killer kind of appeal. Those two then have a back and forth, and Loomis clotheslines Grimes over the top rope, takes a rough tumble, looks like he landed on the back of his neck as well. Or he caught his knee up in the bottom rope or something because he took the tumble. That looked pretty rough. We then get LA Knight come out, and he then decides he wants to cut a promo whilst they're entering down to the ring. Gives Bronson Reed a swift kick in the head as he's leaning against the ramp on the outside. And so he makes his way in, cutting a bit further down the line. Grimes is then jumping over the top rope, which is then reversed by Reed into a big Samoan chop. It's a big counter. Good, powerful move for Bronson Reed. LA Knight then gets on the offensive, and he pulls off a big superplex to Isaiah Swerve Scott, who's on the top turnbuckle. Knight just jumps to the top rope, pulls off this superplex. Big hit. Good move. Dexter Lumis then manages to get Cameron Grimes in the silence, his signature submission move. To then LA Knight then grabs Loomis's legs. He then does a flip over for a pinfall while Dexter's still got Grimes in the silence. LA Knight then picks up a pinfall on Loomis, and my prediction, Loomis is eliminated second. Shocking result. But yeah, so he's eliminated. Grimes and Reed then combine to eliminate LA Knight. He ends up coming out, like I said, they pull off Grimes pulls off a move. Reed hits a senton and picks up the pinfall on LA Knight, and LA Knight's eliminated straight away after. It's like 15-20 seconds later. Absolute madness this was. This then pulls to Knight rolling out the ring, and Loomis is still sitting there because again, this is only 20 seconds later. He then gets Loomis then gets Knight into the silence and takes him out because obviously he's just been eliminated by Knight. This is probably going to be going a feud going forward. That should be really good. Yeah, I'd say it'll be, like I said, Knight can cut a promo, and to cut a promo on a guy that doesn't talk, it's going to be an interesting dynamic going forward. We then get a mad scene where you have Grimes, Swerve, and Reed in the ring, and you have Grimes flip Swerve up onto Reed, who then has him carried down. Grimes comes off the rope, super kicks Reed in the face, who's still holding Swerve. Swerve jumps off. He then does like a fall down slam on Grimes, and as they both land on the deck, Bronson Reed just falls back and collapses on the pair of them. Great little segment there, right there in that point. Grimes and Reed then have that moment where Grimes can pull off that mad running, flipping super, fall away slam, whatever it is. He's just the one where Grimes grabs him. But this is to Reed. This is a 330-pound guy. Grimes just pegs it at him, does this flip, bang, hits him, takes him straight down. It's a mad move. Swerve then appears out of nowhere and just super kick. They just does that jump in, like, I think it's called house kick or something to Grimes's head. Grimes then gets that into a roll-up pin, which is then reversed by Swerve, and then Swerve picks up a pinfall and Grimes is eliminated. And then you're down to your final two, which is Swerve and Reed. Well, you may have seen Reed in the final two, but Swerve, that never would have seen it coming. At this point, I'm thinking I can see Swerve winning it, but obviously as the match progresses, we find out that that's not the case. Swerve then hits a big splash off the top rope, which Reed kicks out of on a 2 count. Swerve then hits triple super kicks to Bronson Reed. He's running his mouth. Reed kicks out to that. And then to finish the match off, you got Reed, who has Swerve on his back, drops him in like a sit-down pole driver, like reverse pole driver position, hits the top rope, hits the splash, picks up the pinfall, and he's going to move on to night 2 against Johnny Gargano for the NXT North American Championship. I'm still expecting Gargano to lose, so I'm saying now that you're going to get Bronson Reed as your new NXT North American Champion tomorrow night. We then move on to the NXT UK Championship match, Tommaso Ciampa versus Walter. This match was almost perfect. So far, you've had a great technical display with Dunn and with Kushida. It's then followed up by a great match with a lot of high spots in the gauntlet match. This was great storytelling. It's just the ending, unfortunately, ruined it for me. I'll run through the match for you before I explain my thoughts as to why this match should have ended slightly earlier, but I'll break it down for you now. Just before the match starts, just want to add this little detail in there because I thought this was a touch of class. The ring announcer normally has a microphone when she's in the ring. They've added this drop down mic, like it's something from they used to get from the old boxing pay-per-view events. It was a nice little touch. This was it looked nice, man. It was just like it added a certain touch of class to what it was. Just a word of note as before I start getting into this review, can I take time to praise the people that set up this arena? This arena looked amazing. It reminded me of the old school arenas, like the old school setups that you used to get for pay-per-view events. You get Backlash with the giant metal arms coming down on stuff. This was just great, man. You had all the strobe lights running up the structures, the giant skull at the foot of the ramp with the sort of the LED screens behind the eyes. Man, NXT is just amazing, man, because they can still do this stuff. Like when you get to your generic pay-per-views on the main roster and it's the same setup as what they have for Raw or SmackDown. Man, like I said, praise to NXT because I say the arena looked amazing for this pay-per-view. Hands down, props to them. Yeah, just outstanding. But anyway, and as well, commentary. If you see my review with AEW from a couple of weeks back with Jonesy, commentary just sucked unbelievably that night. But tonight, the three of them, Wade Barrett especially, their input and the comments they were making, this is why you need decent commentary teams going into pay-per-views like this, because even though you may not pay attention to it most of the time, when you do pay attention, the little things they say just add to the storytelling in wrestling. And this tonight was perfect commentary from the three of them. So the match starts off, Ciampa comes out with some hard hits on Walter. That is quickly ended after one chop. Ciampa pulls out like 3 or 4 and then just Walter comes off the rope and bang. That right hand, the clap is just, how that move isn't just that guy's finisher, it's just unreal. If it is, man, it's just, well, I don't think it is, but yeah, it's just amazing, man. The noise that he can get off that clap is just unreal. Then just after, you've got Ciampa laid out on the top rope and he just another massive chop. It scares me to think how much damage that guy can do with that hand of his. After the second chop, Ciampa then spills to the outside and Ciampa is laid out across the top of the announce table. Walter then goes for a third chop. Ciampa manages to evade this one, and Walter comes down with, which you later see is a pre-cut at the top that runs across the table. Walter comes down, chops the table, breaks the display on top of the announce table in half. It would have been good, apart from the fact that later on in the night they put the cover back on top of the table, and you can see the perfect zigzag cut on top of it, which it was prepped, obviously, but the whole point of this is to then lead on to Walter selling his hand injury for the duration of the match. So with him now injured, there's a point where Ciampa's back in the corner again. Walter goes for another chop. Ciampa manages to get his arm up, blocks the chop with his elbow, and hits the right hand of Walter, and again injures his hand even more. So what does Walter do when he can't chop? He just boots him in the face. And my God, his big boot is just as terrifying as that chop. And if he can't chop, what does he do? Just cracks him with a second big boot, man. Unreal. And then if he doesn't chop him and he doesn't boot him, what does he do then? Just cracks him with the elbows. Walter is just scary on his attacking. His domination is just mad powerful. Ciampa then finally manages to turn it around, and what seems like forever, Ciampa is just running backwards and forwards off the rope, giving these forearms to Walter's chest. He must have gone back and forth probably close to about 25 times. It was like he'd come forearm to the chest, he'd run back off the rope again, forearm to the chest, back and forth, back and forth. I say must have been close to about 25 times. And the whole time, Walter is still standing. He still isn't knocked to his feet at this point. Walter then manages to, on the last one that Ciampa tries to pull off, pulls out the massive chop. Ciampa goes down, but he hulks out. Like, he just gets up straight away and he's psyched. Like, just goes back on the offensive straight away again. It's at this point that Ciampa starts to dominate some more. Ciampa then goes on the offensive a bit more. He's trying to get Walter into the fairy tale ending. He has the arms under the double hook, but Walter manages to reverse it into a pinfall while still having his arms behind his back. Great reversal by Walter here. Ciampa then manages to get out of that, and he does end up hitting the fairy tale ending, but only to a 2 count, unfortunately. But again, the storytelling in this match is just unreal. It's at this point Walter turns the match around, and he starts trying to get Ciampa into some submission moves, but obviously with the injured right hand, he gets Ciampa into like an STF, but he can only lock the left hand in because every time Ciampa touches his right hand, he's nursing the injury. Ciampa then just gets his hand and bites him. It's just one ingenious way to get out of a submission move, just bite the guy. They then manage to spill onto the apron, where Walter then gets a couple of forearm chops to Ciampa over the top rope, and this leads onto into the turnbuckle, where Ciampa manages to pull off an air raid crash off the second rope to Walter to a 2 count. Shocking. An air raid crash off the second rope to a 2 count. Unreal. These near pinfalls are just amazing in this match. There's then the back and forth with chops between the pair of them. Some great some great strikes. Walter then gets Ciampa with 2 power bombs, to which then Ciampa kicks out after 2 power bombs from Walter. Unreal kickouts, man, just unreal. And this, unfortunately, is where the match ends, and I'm highly disappointed with the finish. It ends with Walter, who has Ciampa in a single arm sleeper, which he then does into a German suplex. Ciampa then stands up after taking the suplex. Walter hits him with the chop and picks up the pinfall for a 1-2-3. And I was like, you just hit 2 power bombs and he's kicked out, but you've hit a single arm sleeper German suplex and 1 chop for a pinfall. If I'd have booked this, I would have probably had Walter do the 2 power bombs, have Ciampa get back up, then hit the chop for the pinfall. I think it would have been a better finish. The finish just seemed a bit underwhelming to what had previously gone on in the last sort of 15-20 minutes in this match. But overall, a really good match. I mean, if you had to score it out of 10, it's a 9 out of 10 for me. It's just that ending. This was almost perfect. But yeah, Walter retains, and he's still your NXT UK champion. We then get a quick promo for Frankie Monet, who obviously is Taya Valkyrie. Her dog's back in the CWC again. She'll be again debuting next week on NXT. We then move on to the triple threat tag team match for the vacant NXT tag team championships. MSK versus the Grizzled Young Veterans versus Legado del Fantasma. Kind of confusing how this one worked out, because it was a tag team match. It was a triple threat. They said there was no DQs, yet for some reason the ref was always telling the tag partners to get out the ring. Kind of confused by that rule for some reason. I mean, I'm sure if it's a no DQ, why does the tag team partner have to get out of the ring? Don't know. Just very strange rule there for that one. Phantasma take an early advantage. They start dominating in the early stages of the match. James Drake then gets the hot tag and takes out Legado del Fantasma. With del Fantasma out of the ring at the minute, Drake then works on Carter, who is in the ring. After a while, Carter manages to get the hot tag to Wes. Wes goes on a bit of a spree. He then manages to tag Carter back in. They then hit a sort of poetry in motion. You've got Wes in the knelt down position. Carter takes a run, jumps off of his back and just jumps over the top rope and takes out the veterans. You've then got MSK and the veterans outside the ring. Phantasma by this point have recovered. Del Fantasma then hit a great double team where one of them comes off the top rope or turnbuckle and the other one comes diving through the middle rope and takes out the 4 of them on the outside. LDF managed to get Carter back in the ring. They get him in a tree of woe in the corner on the turnbuckle. They both then hit coast to coast from separate corners on Carter, who's in that. They then go for the pinfall, which is broken up by Gibson. Mad spot, really mad spot to see 2 coast to coast, like one after the other. Good shot there. Del Fantasma then just to dominate for a while on Carter before he gets the hot tag to Wes, who then clears ring. This ends with Wes doing a over the top rope moonsault to take out Del Fantasma, who are on the outside. Wes then manages to hit that moonsault Pele kick that he does. Carter then joins him in the ring, and they do that double team. I don't know the name of it, but the double team move where one of them will do the backflip and the other one will push him on top. They only managed to get a 2 count off of that at this point in the match. Wes then manages to hit a moonsault off the ropes and gets Del Fantasma in a double reverse DDT, which is a great hard spot there. This next spot was great. You had Gibson on the turnbuckle, Drake in ring. Gibson manages to get Wes and tie his hand up in the ropes that are tying up the top turnbuckle pad. Drake then comes in with a missile drop kick on the top turnbuckle. This was a great storytelling moment. Just unreal. I'd never seen it before, but yeah, it's just a good spot to do. It's at this point that Gibson has Wes in the Shankly Gate submission move. It looks like Wes is going to tap out. Carter's trying to get back into the ring. Drake then gets onto Carter, who then puts Carter into a submission move. All the while, Carter's crawling over just as Wes is about to tap out. It's that great old, no, you can't tap out moment. Good scene, great storytelling from these guys. You could see it in Wes's face. You can see him looking at Carter, and he's like, "No, you're right. We need to fight for this. We're going to do this." At this point, Del Fantasma get back in the ring. They break up the submission holds. They manage to pull off a double team move and get a 2 count on that. It's at this point that this match breaks down completely and is no longer a tag team match. This is now a tornado match. You have Grizzled Young Veterans on one side by the ramp. They take out one half of Del Fantasma with a doomsday device where Drake jumps off the ramp and takes him out. On the other side of the ring, you have MSK, who then take out the other member, Mendoza, with a double team move. And then this proceeds to Grizzled Young Veterans being one side of the ring, MSK one, the other side of the ring. They get in, and then they just start an all-out brawl in the middle of the ring. This is then drawn to the end of the match. Carter manages to pull off a double cutter off the top rope as a sort of, a rebound move. GYV, Grizzled Young Veterans, are then down. Carter then manages to get one of them into like a held position in the corner. Wes comes off the turnbuckle with a twisting neck breaker. MSK pick up the pinfall. They are your new NXT Tag Team Champions. A solid match. I was surprised, like I said in my predictions, I would have expected the Grizzled Young Veterans to pick up the windfall here. And I'm shocked to see the Grizzled Young Veterans get pinned. I mean, I would have thought Phantasma being in this match was the reason why I thought they would have been pinned in it. What this means for the veterans going forward, I don't know. I mean, like I said, I expected them to pick up the tag team titles. It would have made more sense for MSK to chase them. Yeah, I don't know where they would go from there. Like, I presume there will be a rematch at some point in the future. But the problem is now is if they're MSK's next challengers, they're still not going to win the title. You're going to be looking 2, maybe 3 takeovers down the line before MSK lose them, and finding heel tag teams that can take them, that can challenge MSK for them titles. I think with NXT, there's kind of more babyface tag teams. So apart from, because only Lorcan and Danny Burch are out now because one of them's injured. Unless Del Fantasma get a rematch, I don't know. But yeah, you're looking, it's going to be another probably 6 months before MSK now lose them tag team titles. But still, I can't complain. I like MSK. I had them down to win the Dusty Classic when they entered. Yeah, so I'm happy for them, man. It's been a long road for the pair of them, and they are, let's say, your new NXT Tag Team Champions. We then cut we're just before the main event. We have Stephanie McMahon and NXT signing, I believe it's pronounced Saray, on the outside. She actually signed a year ago, but unfortunately due to COVID restrictions, she was stuck in Japan. So she hasn't been actually able to travel to the US, but she's now here in there. She's a former Neo Japan Pro Wrestling competitor. I don't know a lot about her. She's all her stuff mainly been in Japan. She's 25. She's been wrestling for 10 years. Yeah, at 15 she was doing her first wrestling matches. But yeah, say hopefully they obviously don't do this with anyone, so I'm expecting big things from her if they give her the typical welcome to NXT in the crowd sort of moment. On to the main event. I was really worried about this match because at the start time there was, I think, 10 minutes left of the broadcast, but I think by the time the bell rung there was 10 minutes left, and I was like, this is not long enough for this match. It got a slight overrun, so it went on a bit longer. I think it went closer to 15 minutes. But yeah, I initially sort of worried for this being obviously the main event and you're giving it 10 minutes. It generally felt like it was going to be like a normal Raw main event or a SmackDown main event, and I thought, no, they can't do this with NXT. This isn't what NXT is about. But I say it got a bit longer. The match is heavily dominated by Io Shirai. She's on the offensive for most of this. She made it like from how Raquel basically dominated her all last week. This was a bit of a shock to how this match played out. There's an early moment where Shirai is trying to hit the moonsault from the top rope to Raquel, who is on the outside at this point. Dakota Kai then gets involved and she is promptly ejected. This is about 2 minutes into the match. I get why they've done it, because obviously you don't really want Shirai hitting that moonsault 2 minutes in. Yeah, it was just really strange, because I say Shirai dominated the majority of this match. After Dakai's interference and promptly ejected, Shirai then manages to hit a moonsault off of the apron onto Gonzalez, who's still outside. So at this point, then Gonzalez has managed to get Shirai up on her shoulder and lawn darts her into the turnbuckle. There's a bit of back and forth here between Shirai and Gonzalez. Gonzalez has her in like a powerbomb position, but instead of dropping her in a powerbomb, she flips her straight over her back and hangs her on the top rope, and sort of would say takes her out and knocks her down a peg or two for a second. There's a tiny bit more back and forth after this. Io then proceeds to reverse a powerbomb into a double foot stomp on Raquel, who's laid out on the mat. Io then hits the 619, followed by a springboard dropkick. Io then locks in a crossface, to which point Raquel can actually reach it with her feet, but she decides that she's going to turn 3/4 of the way and reach for it with the ropes. Not as good as our Pete Dunne and Kushida had done it earlier in the night, but still a good rope break moment. Raquel then manages to roll out onto the ramp. Io then hits a moonsault off the turnbuckle to Raquel, who's on the ramp. Raquel is then at this point, after that, move further up the ramp. Shirai then hits her with a running meteora from one end of the ramp to the other. In the midst of Raquel trying to recover from this meteora, Shirai has done her usual, and she's made her way to the top of the skull that's at the top of the ramp. This skull is 20 foot tall, and Shirai has no problems in throwing herself off the top of it. She catches Raquel with a splash, and you just hear this almighty crash, because where they've landed is on top of grating, and it sounded rough. At this point, they then make their way back into the ring. Io then manages to hit a moonsault on the inside of the ring. She only gets a 2 count on that, which is, let's say, sends the crowd wild, because obviously not very often someone kicks out the moonsault from Shirai. Raquel rolls out the ring. She then manages to pull off a single arm powerbomb onto Shirai on the outside as a kind of desperation move. She then manages to get Shirai back into the ring. At this point, Raquel starts running her mouth, and you're kind of thinking to yourself, at this point it's one of them, Shirai might actually win this moment, but no, Raquel ends up picking up another single arm power bomb, and she pins Shirai for the 1-2-3, and she is your new NXT Women's Champion. Yeah, like I said in my predictions, I think this is it for Io Shirai. She's done a lot in NXT. She's been a great champion. If she doesn't go up, I'd be shocked. I mean, I can't see why she wouldn't, unless they want to do a repeat of this match just to give Raquel another win, possibly get a goodbye match out of Io. Yeah, you might get that, but I think it's now time for Io Shirai to move on to the main roster. And that's it. That's the review for night 1 of NXT. You have to excuse me, I'm absolutely shattered. It is now 4 o'clock in the morning as I'm recording this. I'm going to go to bed, get some sleep, and I'll be back again for night 2. If you enjoyed the show, leave a like. Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. Please share, subscribe, and I'll catch you tomorrow for night 2.